Now, Go 1.22 has just been released in the past month, and with that comes some really exciting changes to the standard library that start to make the HTTP routing far more expressive for those of you that don't want to delve into third-party packages. Now, in this video, we're going to be building a fairly straightforward REST API that takes advantage of these new features. Go. So the first thing I generally do is create a new MUX router, and we use http.new MUX or new serve MUX from the net HTTP package. And then we can start to add some routes to this MUX server. So let's do MUX and we'll do handle func. And let's just do the standard path convention that existed before 1.22. So let's do func w, and this is the http.response-writer, and r is a http.request. Cool. And then let's just do fmt fprint f and hello world, like so. Cool. So now that we've defined this multiplexer, let's go ahead and listen. So let's do if error is equal to http.listen and serve, pass in localhost and 8080, and then let's pass in our multiplexer, and then let's do error does not equal nil. We want to just log that out for now, so let's do error.error. Cool. So just to recap on what we've done here so far, we've defined a new HTTP multiplexer, which effectively matches any incoming request to our server on a given path, such as this one here, to a function. Now, in this case, we've just inlined the function. You can define them separately and then map them to this handle func call as you wish. Then after that, we've then went ahead and attempted to listen and serve our server on localhost port 8080, passing in the multiplexer here. Cool. So let's go ahead and run this in the terminal. So let's do go run main.go. Our application has now started and it's listening and waiting for requests on localhost port 8080. Let's split the terminal, and I'm going to write a curl command. So let's do curl http localhost 8080, and as you can see, we get back the hello world string that we've written to the HTTP response writer up here. Cool. So let's imagine we wanted to extend this out and become more of a REST API. Now, typically you would have one endpoint that would be exposed on multiple HTTP methods that would allow you to do things like create things, read things, update things, and delete things. Now let's, for example, change this to be a comment REST API that would allow you to, say, submit blog post comments or fetch comments or delete comments. Now, traditionally, you would have to do some conditional logic within the handler function in order to map the incoming request to the correct business logic. So say you wanted to read all comments, well, you'd have to check to see if the HTTP method that was used was the get method, and then route that accordingly. Or perhaps you wanted to post a comment, well, you would have to check the HTTP method was the post HTTP method, and then again route that accordingly. Now that was a lot of overhead and it added a lot of complexities to the code, which is why I'm so excited about the new changes that come into Go 1.22. Cool. So let's imagine we want to have a get endpoint. So get comment, which will return all comments. So let's say return all comments. And then let's, for example, imagine we wanted to have a post comment endpoint that on the same path allowed us to accept HTTP post methods that would allow us to post a new comment. So post a new comment, for example. Now, as you can see, this is really nice and simple compared to the alternative, which is having one entry point and then having to do all of this request logic within here. This makes it far more succinct and far nicer in my opinion. Cool. So let's try this out now. So let's Control-C our old server, start it up again. And then let's try and curl the get comment endpoint. So http localhost 8080/comment. As you can see, that returns all the comments. Let's try and do a post request to the same endpoint. So let's do -X post http localhost 8080/comment once again. And as you can see, the multiplexer has done its job. It's been able to map the GET request to the corresponding function, and then it's also been able to do the same for the post request here. Okay, so let's take this example one step further, and let's try and add an endpoint that would allow us to get a single comment by its ID. Well, we can take the existing one and duplicate it, and then we can add this syntax to our path. So typically it's an ID that you would fetch on. So we'll add the brackets ID and then closing brackets, and this will allow us to return a single comment. And then we can also print out this ID. So we can do that using the path values. We can do our ID is equal to r.path value. And then we have to match the name of the value that we passed in here. So in this case, it's ID, and let's do the following. For comment with ID, and it's a string, so let's pass it in as such. Once again, let's kill this and restart it. We'll send another curl request, and let's add an ID of 1. And as you can see, return a single comment for comment with ID 1. It's a bit hard to see with that special character at the end, but it is there. Cool. So that's what we're going to cover. I just wanted to show off this new functionality that was in Go 1.22. However, if you want a more full-fledged example of how to build REST APIs in Go that are slightly more complex than this example that we've got here, then feel free to check out my website. I've got lots of courses that show exactly how you can build production-ready REST APIs that are ready for production traffic. Now, as always, if you like this video, then leave a like. Let me know in the comments section down below, and subscribe to my channel for more programming content. Cheers.